Hi, welcome to the Fix-It Shop. I'm your host, Charlie Byers. Today, we're going to talk about elevation rods. And in our previous segments, we talked about how our elevation rods today are collapsible. So when we extend them, you're going to hear that loud click every time so you know that it's truly in position. Right now, I'm holding an architectural rod in my hand. And just as we stated previously, any red number is going to equal the number of feet that the elevation is above the bottom of the elevation rod, and our black numbers are going to represent inches. Now, on this particular architectural rod, we have 1, 2, 3 indice lines between each inch, and therefore that means the inch is broken into 4 quarters or 4 parts. So I like to teach my students at the college that 4 quarters is equal to $1, and we all know how important money is, and usually they get that pretty right. But we also need to understand there are 4 quarters of an inch that equal 1 inch. So therefore, each one of these lines is a quarter. And when we get to the longer line in between, midway, that's representing the half-inch indice line. Now, on an engineer scale, they're not going to have 3 lines between every inch. They're going to have 4. So each one of those is going to represent 2/100ths of an inch. If we express a quarter in decimals, that's going to equal 0.250. And if we look at the indice distance on an engineer scale of 0.200, that's 0.200. So the difference between those two increment readings is about 50 thousandths of an inch. If you think about it back in terms of money, that's about the thickness of a penny, maybe a little bit more. Haven't measured one for a while, but I just throw my pennies in a coin bank and I really don't spend them. The difference is, though, when we don't use the right scale and we're trying to get the right fraction or the right part of an inch in between a whole inch, it's a difference between 50 thousandths of each line. So it can really make for a hard time when we're trying to get things accurate and dead on, especially when we're using the builder's transit, that we have to use somebody's eyesight to look through and see where one of these lines is. So I hope this segment's been real helpful for you on the differences of elevation rods. And before we go in this section, I just want to say our rods are 8 feet tall. If we're going to dig a hole in the ground 8 feet, we're not going to have anything sticking above the ground to read through the transit or even set the receiver on for a laser level. So most of my excavators will use a 10-foot rod. And again, when I pull it out of their truck, I got to make sure I'm not pulling out the engineer's rod, pulling out the architect's rod. Because everything in my world is feet, inches, and fractions, not feet, inches, and decimals. So again, hope you enjoyed this segment, and I hope it's been very valuable to you.